everybody, and welcome to the Football League show. Jordan McCary here. Usually Michael's here as well, but unfortunately he can't make it tonight. But we've got a very, very special guest, and Dougie Imrie. How you doing, Dougie? All right?
I'm okay, Jordan. Thanks for having us on.
No, thanks for coming on. We were just mentioning at the cup final there. Some result for Livy, 5-0.
Yeah, it was a great performance from them. Obviously, Queen's Park were disappointed to lose in the manner they did, especially in a cup final. But all credit to Livingston. They started the game really fast and then got at Queen's Park and were well worthy of the 5-0 victory today.
Aye, of course, that's it. Exactly. I think Queen's Park have been up against it for a kind of number of weeks now, haven't they? It's just kind of, apart from the big result against Rangers, and they've been a bit hot and cold in the league. But we'll also get onto that and stuff as well. So, but other than that, good weekend. I know it's a defeat for yourselves yesterday, but other than that, a good weekend.
It was, obviously going on to the game yesterday, we're disappointed to lose 1-0, but got to give you credit to my players. I thought they were excellent in the game. We had the 2 or 3 of the best opportunities and we don't take them, and that sometimes can happen in football. We make a mistake and we're punished, and credit to Partick Thistle, they came and got the win that probably cements 4th place for them.
Aye, of course, that's it. Right, start off just with the Championship. Ayr United 3, Dunfermline 0. Also, Neil Lennon comes into the job during the week. It's always a bit of a hard ask. I think no matter who came in, to be honest, I think Ayr United have been strong. Maybe a couple of results maybe no went their way, just maybe the last couple of weeks or whatever, but still a strong team, good manager as well. Scott Brown's obviously doing well. Also come up against him and stuff, but 3-0, would you have been surprised about that, to be honest?
Listen, it was a convincing scoreline in the end, but I think Dunfermline have been looking at trying to get a new manager bounce. Obviously the hype of Neil coming in, and then obviously the next day Victor Wanyama coming to the club. So there was a lot of bounce expected from that management coming in. Obviously, they've been under the cosh a little bit the last few weeks. They lost against us, lost at Partick Thistle, drew at home to Hamilton. So the pressure's kind of been on them, but that can happen. Ayr have been outstanding this season. Scott and Stephen have come in from Fleetwood and done remarkable. They've got a very good team, a strong team. We've came up against them 5 times this season, 4 in the league and 1 in the Scottish Cup, and it's always been tough games. They've got a good squad of players, physical players at the top end of the pitch can cause anybody an issue. And obviously Dunfermline, they've let go of James in January, and went down a different road of recruitment, etc. New owners have come in wanting to play a different style of football, and I don't think it's quite worked for them. And obviously then they brought in Michael. Michael only got, like I said, 2 months. I don't think it was long enough for him. He's only in his first job, a young guy as well. He would have been looking to implement his own style and his own way of playing. I don't think he's got the time to do that. And then obviously they brought in Neil, and they'd have been looking, like I said yesterday, to try and get that managerial bounce, someone new, especially the career that Neil Lennon's had. And it's quite not worked out for him. So again, it'll need to be back to the drawing board. But listen, credit to Ayr, they've been through a little bit of a sticky patch, and they've got the win that they're looking for.
Aye, of course. I said that, as I said to you just before we come on air, their football show, and I've said that a couple of times now, their football show on the radio, but I said that a couple of times about obviously Michael Tidsler. I thought that was very harsh, to be honest. He done ever so well at Kelty. So I've been at a wee bit for Dumbarton as well, and I thought his Kelty team were excellent, and I thought he'd have really went on and done well, but I think it was always a hard ask. I think Dunfermline weren't doing great, and they were just kind of probably trying a new thing, but surely, is that any manager needs a wee bit more time than 2 months, but obviously a wee bit harsh. Have you ever been in a position like that, you're just kind of under pressure right away? I suppose you're under pressure every week, but just
well, I was probably under pressure when I first got the opportunity at Morton, because, like I say, I was a rookie myself. I hadn't had any experience as a first-team manager. I had experience as a youth coach and as an assistant manager, and I was basically thrown in the deep end. Morton had obviously languishing at the bottom of the table, 13 points after 18 games, so it was sink or swim. But like I say, I managed to get a tune out of the lads that season. But again, I had a lot of experience. That's maybe the issue that Dunfermline don't have. They don't have a spine of experienced players. Certainly playing week in, week out. I know they do have experienced players within the squad, but for whatever reason, that spine of experience isn't playing at the moment. So yeah, I think it was really harsh on Michael. Like I say, 59 days, it's not enough. We'd have liked to probably got to the summer and made different decisions in terms of players coming to the building to play the style of play he wants to play, I think.
Aye, of course. Then also Neil Lennon comes in, massive name in Scottish football as it is. He's also got a job in his hands to try and keep them firming up. I think that's also the main focus. As you say, he brings in Victor Wanyama, but not the weekend for him either, was it? Obviously sending off. I don't know if you've seen it. Obviously seen it back, a bit of a nightmare for him, but it's probably just Scottish football, isn't it? There's always something that happens every weekend, isn't there?
No, of course, everybody's get their eyes in that game because obviously the magnitude of, obviously, like you said, Neil Lennon, a massive name in Scottish football for everything he's done at Celtic, Hibs, etc. And then Victor Wanyama, fantastic career at Celtic. It's a move to Southampton, then moved to Tottenham, plays in the Champions League final, and the buzz about them filming would be massive. And like you say, the conditions weren't great at Capello, so I could just imagine the conditions at Ayr on Saturday. And like I say, I have seen the incident. It does look as if he slips and he's just trying to help his team not concede another one. And unfortunately for him, there's no recovered defender to maybe take a yellow card instead of the red. But they'll have to pick themselves up. They've got another massive game on Wednesday now against Livingston at home, who have just come off the back of a cup final and won 5-0. So, but I don't think that'll be really the game that Dunfermline will be looking too much into. I think it'll be Saturday home to Hamilton, which is an absolute massive 6-pointer for both teams.
As a massive point, and we'll go into that also just kind of throughout the show, but who's kind of impressed you for United in Dunfermline when you've come up against them, player-wise?
Certainly for Ayr, obviously with George Oakley, obviously I miss him. He was a massive player for us at Morton. But listen, I think Ayr have got many good players on their team. I think Michael Devlin's been a massive miss recently. But the one that I really like is the lad Marco Roos that they brought in. Scott and Stephen obviously know him from being down the road. I think he came out of Coventry. He's a Romanian internationalist, so he just is so elegant with the ball. He moves quicker when he's got the ball at his feet than without it. So he's a really good player. But he's only one of 4 or 5 that Ayr United have got. They've got a very good squad. The young lad Dylan Watrip, only 17, I think just turned 18, maybe last month again. Another young promising kid that they've got to the foray to help push them forward. But yeah, they're a very strong team. And I think they'll be disappointed just the last few weeks that they've maybe just took their eye off the ball and maybe going to miss out on automatic promotion.
Of course. See, in that kind of situation, is it sometimes just also about results to get the points, just because obviously you want to play well every week, but just the way you're United, is it maybe just always about the results, just to try to keep plodding away? And they were in kind of touching distance of Falkirk, and that's kind of opened up a wee bit.
Yeah, listen, that's the main thing at this stage of the season. They get into the last quarter, it's all about winning. We always, managers want to play great football and attractive football, but at the end of the day, it's all about 3 points and getting yourself over the line. And I think that may be the disappointment for Ayr and Steve. For Scott and Stephen Ayr, that they've just not managed to get over the line. Obviously, the game against us, they were 1-0 up and probably deserved half time. And then second half, we've come out and managed to overturn them and 2-1. But again, like I say, this time of the season, it's about winning. And like I say, your question about good players at Dunfermline, obviously Chris Kane is one that has been a massive plus for them this season. But they've got very good young players as well. I really like the young boy Lewis McCann, who plays off the left and plays a striker. Very good player in my opinion. Chris Hamilton, the middle of the pitch, does really well for him. Adam Comrie as well at right back is a very steady player for them as well, come through their academy. So they've got a spine of good players as well. Listen, I think throughout the championship, there's a lot of good players who could play at a better level.
Aye, I've been to a few championship games this year, been to United a few times yourselves, and I think there is good players all over. I think it's just that it's a tight league as well at times, isn't it? Like, it's tough, and you're always, I think throughout the league, everybody can beat everybody at times. It's just a tough league.
Oh, it's very competitive. I think it's obviously when I played in it way back when I could put my boots on it was always a tough league. And it's the same as being a manager now. It's very competitive. Like you said, Jordan, everybody can beat everybody on their day. Don't get me wrong, there's teams within the division our budgets are way beyond some is. But again, that's up to other teams to build squads that are competitive. And I think that's the biggest thing. Every team is very competitive, and there's good players within these teams that, like I've said, could play at a better level. And you just need to look at the results throughout the season, and that tells you how difficult this division is to get out of.
Aye, of course. And then also, onto yourselves yesterday, a 1-0 defeat against Partick Thistle. Also, another team kind of without a manager, with Brian Graham. Also, I think Mark Wilson's in there as well. What did you make it for yourself?
Obviously, first and foremost, disappointed to lose the game, because I think we were well worthy at least a point. We didn't deserve to lose the game. Like I say, we had 2 or 3 very good opportunities before we make the mistake for Partick Thistle to score through Dan O'Reilly. But again, it's the same old cliche: if you don't put the ball in the net, then you're susceptible to losing, and that I think was the case yesterday. You know, we were far on top. And credit to Partick Thistle, Brian and Mark. They came to do a job on us. They know that they knew the importance, we knew the importance, and I think in the end, I think a draw would have been a fair result. But I've got to give credit to Partick for keep going to the end, and they got their goal through our mistakes. So again, we're disappointed with that. But again, the players have got to take good credit for their performance and use belief going into the game against Falkirk and Saturday, because again, that'll be another tough game for us.
Of course. And then also, were you off today then?
Boys were off today, yeah, so they'll be back in tomorrow.
Is it just a case of back in tomorrow and just kind of, I know it's all cliche, keep doing what you've been doing, but just keep doing the right things right, and just kind of prepare for the game next Saturday?
Yeah, listen, I can't be too harsh on the lads. You know, we've, in the last, I think it's 18 games, we've lost 4 games. So the form's very good, Jordan. You know, it's fine margins in this division. We've had it all season. You know, we know ourselves that we shouldn't be sitting in 6th position. We should be in the top 4 because the performances have been very good. It's just a case of when we've had our golden opportunities within games, we've just not taken them and we've been punished. It was the same on Tuesday night. You know, we've been 2-0 down. The boys have done magnificent to get back to a winning position with 20 seconds to go, 30 seconds to go. We lose a poor goal. And that's been the story of the season. You know, we've just know at the right times put our bodies in the line to stop goals or to defend better. And like I say, that's probably why we find ourselves where we're at the moment. But we've still got 5 games, we've got 15 points to fight for, and hopefully, like I say, we can do enough to get into the playoff position. But like I say, I think it's Partick Thistle to lose at the moment.
See you as a manager, do you kind of try and keep the same throughout the week and not maybe change much, and then just try and tweak a few things that you need to tweak, or do you look at the opposition and then just go off it for there?
Yeah, like I say, since I've become a manager, my routine very rarely changes. We try and keep it the same so that the players aren't getting too much change. We want the same routine throughout the full season. But like I say in your question, every team plays differently. So we'll evaluate, we'll analyse every team to see their strengths and their weaknesses, and then there may be things later on in the end of the week that we maybe change to try and combat what they may do. Obviously, from the start of the season up until January, until the window's open, until teams are then allowed to bring in new players, then we may look at teams again. But certainly from the first quarter to the third quarter, it kind of stays the same until we see maybe change in personnel, and then we maybe have to adapt to that. It was the same obviously with Queen's Park the other week. You know, Callum, we know the way Callum was like to play. They obviously changed their manager the week before we had to play them, so we had to go, or I certainly had to go back and look at what Stephen McLeod done at St Johnstone to see if I can maybe pick out something that he may do with the Queen's Park team. So it's just small things. Listen, football's, it's very basic. It's 11v11 with 1 ball, 2 goals, so it never changes. It's just the personnel may change and information may change, but the game is pretty simple, and that's the way I like to try and keep it for my players simple, and then there's no grey areas. It's this is the way we want to play. This is your jobs, this is your roles, and let's go.
Of course. And then your old team Hamilton, 3-0, you beat 3-0 off Raith Rovers. Been really up against it this season, Hamilton as well, isn't it? It's just one of them, just not really kicked on for John Rankin, really, has it?
No, listen, I've got a strong affiliation with Hamilton. You know, I was there for a long time. Played there over 300 or 400 games. I was a club captain for a period of time. So my heart's still strong there, and it's not nice to see them where they are. But yeah, they'd have been disappointed. They know the importance of picking up points, and I think that was a sore one yesterday against Rafe Rovers. And like I said, obviously earlier on in the show, it's going to be a massive game for them on Saturday. But they've got to try and pick themselves up and find motivation from somewhere to try and get over the line.
Is it tough to get back to play against Hamilton, also with Morton just now, or just obviously because you've got that affiliation with them, but also I know you've got a job to do, but is it good to get back, or is it just one of them ones that you don't really like getting back just because you obviously want to go out and win yourself?
Nah, sometimes, well, as a professional, you just got to put that to the back of your head, Jordan, for 90 minutes. I'm there to do a job for Morton, and that will never change wherever I'm at. Whether I move on or whatever, my job's to win games of football for Greenock Morton, and I can't have any sentiment when I go back to places that I've played at. I'm a winner. I want to win as many games as I can for my players and then my club, and that will never change. But like I say, at times it is difficult. The last few games, it's pretty strange. I'm getting applauded off the pitch from both sets of supporters, so it's pretty surreal. You don't get that very often. So yeah, but hopefully, like I say, they can find the spirit or the motivation from somewhere to go and just pick up some wins to see them through to the summer, and then, like I say, it'll be up to the powers that be that can maybe make them a little bit better and kick them on again.
Cool. Just looking at the league table here as well, so Falkirk top, 8 points ahead of year. Do you think it's basically theirs to lose now, isn't it? I think Ian were in touching distance only a couple of weeks ago, but probably, for my opinion, I think Falkirk are probably going to win it now. That'd be fair to say.
Yeah, but I think you probably better wait until after Wednesday, because Livingston have got a game in hand that could maybe cut that to 5, and then the pressure's back on Falkirk. But like I say, I think you could be right, Jordan. I think it's Falkirk certainly to lose. They're in a strong position with only 5 games to go. They've got an 8-point, potentially 5-point gap, with 15 points to play. So, like I say, they're very strong at home, Falkirk, and that's what's done them well. Albeit they've not beaten Livingston this season. So, from Davies' point of view, he'll be disappointed that he's took 10 points off of Falkirk and still sitting 8 points behind them. So, but listen, Falkirk have been a credit to themselves, John and Smudger have built a very good team, a very competitive team. And like I say, they've been very astute all season, very consistent, and I think that's why they find themselves where they are in the league table.
They're absolutely flying. I think they've been brilliant. As I say, come up against them with Dumbarton a couple of times, and in pre-season as well they played, and I'm really impressed. I thought really good team. Seen them on the telly a couple of times, when they've been playing, and thought they're a brilliant team as well. So I think you should say credit to them. They're also flying for a reason, and John McGlynn's been absolutely brilliant. So we've got really good players as well. Said that as well. I think they were always brilliant, but then also they signed Scott Arfield as well, which a top player. I think that's just maybe that wee kind of final piece to the jigsaw to really just help them kick on as well.
Yeah, but when you've got 7,000 at every home game and you're flying, it's easy to attract players. They've got, obviously, like I was saying earlier, they've got a massive budget that can attract the likes of Scotty Arfield. Don't get me wrong, Scotty obviously wants to go back and finish his career here. He's said it for many a year that he would love to go back and finish his own career where he started his career. But you're right, somebody of that calibre, everything Scott's done in the game going back can only galvanise the group. And you can see that, obviously he was down at our place a few weeks ago and scored a wonderful goal to set them on the way to a 2-0 victory. But not just Scott, they brought in Eamon Brophy, Dara O'Connor, other players during January to strengthen. So they've obviously looked after themselves, and like I say, we lost Calvin Miller to them 2 years ago. Another player that I had that I would love to have kept, because Calvin's, in only my opinion, this season been one of the best players in this division, week in, week out, and he's only looked as if he's getting stronger. We had Gary Oliver at Morton a few years ago as well. And so, it's difficult for me at times to see these players at other clubs because I'd love to have kept them, but I understand in the modern day that players want to move on when they're getting offered more money. So, again, like I say, it hurts when I'm seeing players that I had in my building come up against me and doing really well.
I know, I can only imagine. Do you sometimes kind of take a wee bit of credit as well? Because obviously you've coached them and they've got that move because of how well they're doing, and also you've been coaching them and stuff. So do you take a wee bit of credit, or is it just a case of, you'd rather keep them and it is what it is type thing?
Oh, listen, you always look as if you've been a part of their journey, but my frustration, John, is that I would love these players to be with me because
Aye,
I know how good they are. But I can also understand in the game that you only have a short career and players want to make as much as they can. So I never begrudge anybody moving on. The only hurt I have is obviously not having them in my world anymore because, like I say, when I look through the championship, the amount of players that are playing for other clubs that we had, like I say, we would have some team and we should be up there challenging for the league title.
I know that's just the part and parcel of football, isn't it? Just one of them things, as you say. As I say, Livingston sitting in third, but just the goal difference below Ayr United. Partick, who's played yesterday, in fourth. Obviously, Chris Doolan lost his job a few weeks ago. It's probably a bit harsh. We kind of not really out of fourth, to be fair. Partick, they're 6 points ahead of Raith Rovers. Do you think that was a bit harsh considering the top three have been kind of flying? You see, yourselves could maybe have been up there as well, potentially. But just a wee bit harsh him going earlier on in the season.
Yeah, Chris is a good guy. I done my A licence with Chris a few years ago, so I know him through that. And like I say, for any young manager, it's not nice to see your fellow professionals losing their job. And like I say, I think being at a club like Partick Thistle, there's a lot of pressure on you because you need to win. There's a big expectation at a football club. In my opinion, they should be in the Premier League. They're a massive club in Scottish football. They've got a massive fan base when things are going well. And I think that's maybe just what caught up with Chris, the expectation to win every week. And that's the way it should be at these big clubs. I think they were maybe on a 10, 11 game losing streak. They only winning 10, 11 games. And for a club of Partick Thistle, that's just not good enough. And that's not just at Partick, that's at other clubs as well within the Championship. If you're at these bigger clubs that should be Premier League, Dunfermline's another one. You go to these places, the place is always rocking because the fans come. For Dunfermline every week's get nearly 6,000 there. Partick Thistle average 3,000-4,000 every one game. So massive expectation at these football clubs, and you have to win. And then, like I say, that's maybe why the powers above decided to relieve Chris and then have a change. And then you could think, you could say, looking in from the outward, that it's been a blessing because they've not lost a game since Brian and Mark took over as interim. While the club are looking to get a new regime and a sporting director, and then obviously look to bring in a new manager.
Cool. Do you have a sporting director at Morton?
Nah, we don't. I just I do a lot of the stuff at Morton myself, Jordan.
Would you rather that, or do you think it just been also there's pros and cons, but for yourself as a manager, would you prefer that? Or would it maybe be fair to say as long as it's the right person coming in, if it works, it works?
Yeah, listen, I think there's a place, but only my own opinion, I think a sporting director is okay at a massive institute where there's maybe 1 million people you have to deal with. Like I say, at Morton, there's only a small group of us, a small board, a small staff. When you go bigger, let's use Celtic and Rangers, and I can understand why maybe there's an in-between person to deal with everybody. But certainly, I don't think that a club of Morton's size needs a sporting director. And I don't think there's many in the Championship. Obviously, Partick Thistle are going down that route to try and help. But I agree with what you're saying, John. I think if there is a sporting director at a football club, then I think it has to bode well for both parties, that they have a good relationship and that everybody's on the same page. Because if they're not, then there's going to be complications along the way.
Aye. Yourselves, Morton, sitting in 6th, 7 points off Partick Thistle in the playoff position. Still a good few points up for grabs, a few games to play. Is it just a case for yourselves just try and keep winning? Or is that game, I know it's so ifs and buts, but if you'd won yesterday, it puts you in a wee bit of a better position, but it's just a bit kind of rolling up the sleeves and getting points on the board?
Yeah, well, the last 4 days have obviously killed that momentum a little bit. The sickener against Raith Rovers with, like I say, 30 seconds to go, kills us 2 points after getting back into a great position. And then obviously yesterday, the amount of effort we put into the group and the amount of effort they put onto the pitch. Like I say, we didn't deserve to lose the game, but in the space of 4 days, we've lost 5 points and we've lost that momentum. because we were getting closer to Partick Thistle. If we won yesterday, they'd be down to a point, and then it's all to play for. But like I say, the group have only dropped 4 or 5 points in the last 5 games, so it's been a great return. There's nothing to be down about. We're in a good position. We just have to get back on the bike, and like I say, no better place than to go to Falkirk, on Saturday, a team flying that you can go there. Like I keep saying, the championships are very weird. Like at times, the results are always different, and no one expects a miracle. So why can't that be us on Saturday going to Falkirk and picking up 3 points? But listen, it'll not be easy. I'll take my hat off and give Falkirk the full respect that they deserve, because they've been unbelievable at home this season.
Aye, of course, as I said earlier on, they've been flying as well. But as you rightly says, why can you not go and get a result there and get yourselves up that table and hopefully get a playoff place?
Well, you have to believe.
Say that again, sorry.
I was just going to say, John, you have to believe that you can win every game. If you can't believe you can go to Falkirk and not win, then there's no point coming to the game or being a football player.
I totally agree.
You have to believe you can go everywhere and win. And if you have that mentality, then you win more games than you lose.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think sometimes it's easier for fans just to kind of not be negative or naive, but maybe to be that wee bit nervous. But as you say, as a player and a coach and stuff, you've got to have that belief that you can beat MD, no matter if it was Falkirk next week or Barcelona in 2 weeks' time. It doesn't matter, anything can happen, can't it?
100%. Like I say, I was always like that as a player. I just couldn't wait to get to the next game, because I had a desire and a drive to be better every day in training, every day in the next game. And if I was a player in my dressing room at the moment, I'd be buzzing for Saturday to come, so that we can get the disappointment out of a Saturday and take it to Falkirk and say, right, okay, what's happening? Let's go. And then let's see what happens after the 90 minutes.
I would try and go out and prove a point and show everybody how good a team you are.
100%. That's what they should be doing. I'll be certainly this week getting on about them to try and keep their heads up, because they shouldn't be feeling down. They've been brilliant. Obviously, we'll be disappointed with the way we lost the goal, but we've done enough in the game, like I say, to pick up 3 points yesterday. With glorious opportunities, and like I said, another day we could have won the game. Like I say, we didn't deserve to lose it, but that's football. Sometimes you put in a lot and don't get anything. Other times you do nothing and come away with 3 points. That's just the nature of the game.
Yeah. Queen's Park, Blues in 7th, and Hamilton in 8th, Dunfermline in 9th. Hamilton 2 points ahead of Dunfermline. Obviously, Hamilton will probably be. I know. See as a manager as well as, or even as a player, I know you've got to. Is it fair to say you've got to do like on the part yourself, like, and then if kind of teams run about you, that points, that's a bonus type thing. But you've also got to concentrate yourself. But see, as a team like Hamilton, Dunfermline, they'd probably have an eye on each other as well. Would that be fair to say?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you're 100% right, Jordan. You've just first and foremost got to do your job and worry about other results after the game's done. But certainly for Hamilton, Dunfermline, Airdrie, Queen's Park, they'll all be certainly looking over their shoulder. Queen's Park have got another massive game Wednesday night against Airdrie, who I think will certainly catch someone. I don't think they'll be the team that finishes bottom. I've watched them 2 or 3 times in the last 6 weeks, and they've been different class. And if they keep playing the way they're playing, they'll certainly catch someone.
Well, what you just said there, I was about to repeat to you there, because I've watched them a few times, seen them against Dumbarton in the Cup, beat us 5-1. I watched them against Livingston. It's kind of maybe just before, after Christmas maybe, and Livingston won 3-0, but it was never a 3-0 game. I thought Airdrie were excellent, to be honest. I think just Livingston were clinical that day. But I think for me, I don't think performance-wise. In fact, I was actually talking to Andy Graham as well, and that's what he was saying about Airdrie. They seem to just kind of put the ball in it and just kind of seem to get results over the line. But football, and they seem to be then brilliant on the park, which that comes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's all about results, and I feel a wee bit for Rhys McCabe, to be fair with you. I just think he shouldn't be in that position.
No, listen, I was at the game you mentioned, the 3-0 game, and I fought for, like I said, large parts of the game here, they were a better team. And like you said, Livingston were clinical that night and took their chances when they came along. But like I say, I watched the highlights of them against Falkirk last week, and I thought they were a better team. They should have beat Falkirk, obviously, again. don't put the ball in the net, it goes back to haunt you. And obviously Falkirk got a chance, took it, got a penalty in the last kick of the ball to see the game out 2-0. But they're a very good team. They're a very expansive team. They're very quick in the counter attack, and I think that's where they'll hurt a lot of teams. And only my opinion, what I watched today, I would fancy them to beat Queen's Park on Wednesday night as well.
Aye, as I said earlier on as well, Queen's Park are also up against it as well. So it is coming to that kind of end of the season. You need points, and obviously Queen's Park need points as well. But do you think Airdrie do have enough to go up and catch Dunfermline into ninth place?
I do. I certainly do. Like I say, I think they obviously need to win games. But I think if they can win on Wednesday night, and like I say, maybe Dunfermline lose to Livingston, then there's a lot of pressure on the Hamilton Dunfermline game for sure. Because again, they need to play again on Saturday, and if they win these next two games back to back, they could potentially be level with Dunfermline come 5 o'clock on Saturday night. So, like I say, this time of the season is always nervous. I've been there as a player, and when you're losing games of football, if you've got a young team and there's not a lot of experience in your team, it's quite easy when you lose a goal for everybody to capitulate and just don't. That the players don't want to make mistakes, Jordan. That's the issue. You know, they start to tense up. They don't want to make a mistake, so they don't do what they would naturally do. Just play with a freedom. They start to play within themselves, and it's not a great place to be. You know, it was the same when we were at Hamilton all the years in the Premier League. You know, we were firefighting every year, but we had a spine of players that always got us over the line because we had an experienced group. Myself, Darren McKinnon, Mark Cannon, Ali Crawford, Grant Gillespie, you know, who could carry the team and allow the younger ones just to flourish. And if you don't have that spine and fighters, then unfortunately you could find yourself out down the trapdoor.
See you as a manager, I'm not saying you have a certain number of experienced players, but would you look to have a experienced player in each position? No each position, but an experienced defender, an experienced midfielder, experienced striker? Or is it just kind of try to get the balance right? I suppose that'd be the main thing to say.
I think you certainly need to get the balance right, but I also think you need an experienced core of players because when, especially in the Championship, because there's always, you go through periods where it just isn't clicking for you. You lose games, you lose another game. Like we've had it in the 3 years I've been at Morton, we always have a sticky period. And it's having that core of players to eventually get you out it, and then it starts to click again. But I think for whatever reason, there's not a lot of it. There's 2 or 3 teams this season have went more of a youth route, and not only in my own opinion, having played, like I say, for a lot of years in the Premier League, with a club that their ethos was to bleed in young kids. I've seen it work well at Hamilton. Ronnie McDonald and Colin McGowan, Les Gray, Alan Maitland were superb at it. You know, they had a group of 6 or 7 experienced players, and they would bleed in their younger ones. And then when games opened up, well, maybe 2 or 3 up, more experienced players would come off and they'd bleed in the younger ones again. So you'd finish with 5 or 6 younger players, and you only need to look at their track record and how they've done it, and the amount of players that have left, even our youth academy. The amount of players that have left Hamilton Accies Youth Academy over the year to go, England, etc., is phenomenal. And again, that was down to Ronnie McDonald and how he wanted to have the ethos of his club to run. And I just think, looking at 1 or 2 now, they just have too many young players playing without a core of older, experienced heads to help them get through the difficult periods of games.
See, you talk about Hamilton's young players. I can't no talk to you about a boy, Cian Newbury. He was on loan at Dumbarton last year. Done his cruciate this year, didn't he? I think it was. But he was unbelievable last year for Dumbarton, the second half of the season, when he came in January. Unbelievable. And I remember turning around to folk going, why is he not playing for Hamilton just now? But he was unbelievable, and I was gutted that he also got an injury this year. And I'm sure he'll come back for that, but he could go to the top, couldn't he? Like the rest of it, he's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, young Cian, I've seen him since he was 10, 11 years of age. A fantastic kid, good family. And I was gutted to hear he picked up a really serious injury, because I was hearing good reports about him at Dumbarton. And obviously you've echoed that yourself, Jordan. So listen, there's good kids out there. It's just finding them the right fit and the right platform to go and showcase how good they are. And again, yourself working at Dumbarton, you'll see the importance of having an experienced player around about him to help him. as well, because he can play 2 or 3 positions, Kieran. You know, he can play as a 6, he can also play as a centre-back, he could potentially go and play right back. So, again, at times when I'm looking at players, I don't just look to see if they can play one position, I look to see if they can play 2 or 3, because obviously I don't have the biggest budget at Morton, so when we pick up injuries, like I say, we've picked up in the last 2 seasons really bad injuries to 5, 6, 7 of our players at the once, and we're under the cosh a wee bit, and it's having that importance of being able to have utility players that can maybe play right back, that can also play right mid, can maybe also play in the middle or play right centre back. So I don't just always look for a player that can play a position. I look for players that can maybe play 2 or 3, that when we're under like I say, under the cosh with injuries, etc., I can maybe move them into a different area of the pitch for me.
Yep. Moving on to League Two, obviously just talking about Dumbarton there, but Dumbarton 3, Alloa 2, obviously Dumbarton obviously been already relegated, but do you think that was maybe a case of obviously pressure's off a wee bit, but obviously the pressure's not off for Alloa, but I kind of called that as I bet you know the pressure's off, like they've kind of got a wee bit of freedom, there's no maybe as much, it's hard to, do you get what I'm trying to say, if it just kind of makes sense to you, like the focus isn't on them as much to go out and win games.
You're 100% right. I've been there as a player. Like I've said, Dumbarton will be, before that game, knowing that they have to go into win every week. We must win or we're down. And then as soon as an inevitable comes, there's no pressure anymore. They can just go and express themselves because they know it doesn't matter anymore. We're already done. And that's probably the disappointment thing for Stevie and his staff, is why now when we're already relegated that we go put on a performance against a good Alloa team. You know, obviously Andy will be disappointed as well, because I think that team now came out the top 4 as well. So they're now, I think, behind Queen of the South, have stuck in with a good win as well against Cove. So Alloa have been there all year, and now getting to that business end of the season where results matter. They maybe have been thinking it's okay, we just need to turn up and win the game, because Dumbarton will not be playing for anything. But again, that's not how football works. It's a mad industry that we work in. But I know Andy really well. I played with Andy at Hamilton, and he wouldn't have been turning up to that game expecting just to roll over Dumbarton and pick up 3 points. He knew it would have been a tough game, and like I say, he'll be disappointed to have lost the game and come out of the playoffs.
It will be disappointed, but as I say, I think Dumbarton, I've always said, I think they've got good players. Like one of the goal scorers yesterday, Michael Ruth, I think he's brilliant. Obviously, Craig McGuffey scored. I think maybe not been his season. I think he shows like brilliance, and then sometimes he's a wee bit disappointing. Like, I think he's a wee bit inconsistent at times, but you could probably say that about Dumbarton kind of as a club now. I think administration kind of sucked the life out of them, and since we went into administration, it's just been a bit of a nightmare, because they had a great start. At the start of the season, I think it was unbeaten, and I think it was maybe 8 first 8 games of the season, and then just up against it a wee bit just with administration, and then can he sign players? Brett Long, your number 1 goalkeeper, gets injured, then Paddy O'Neill, your number 2, gets injured, and you're bringing in the boy for Falkirk, can't mind his name, but he comes in, he gets injured after a game, and then next minute, you know, you've got 2 young boys coming in because you can't sign them over the age of 20, and Shea Kelly made his first appearance yesterday, but it seems to be just it went from bad to worse for Dumbarton. They just couldn't get a break.
No, it's obviously, like you said, I think the administration's kind of killed the club, you know, but you're 100% right, you know. Michael Roof's a player that I like. You know, I've watched him a few times. I think he maybe needs to get the step up sooner rather than later to test him. He scored another few good goals yesterday. Obviously, with Callo Pignatello at our place the season before. Again, I brought in Callo from Livingston. But a new change of job, etc. I wanted to go back part-time, so we let him go to pursue that. But you're right, listen, there's good players in the lower leagues as well, League 1 and League 2. It's just a lot of these lads are part-time, but they've got really good jobs, so unless the numbers add up, then the likelihood of them coming from part-time to full-time is going to be difficult, because they make good money part-time and then also with their job, so some of them enjoy just staying part-time, which is a disappointment, because they've got an opportunity coming and maybe do well full-time and then maybe kick on again. But like I say, in this day and age, money for a lot of people's the most important.
That's it. How was Carlo as a player? He's a good boy, isn't he?
Oh, he's top notch. Got a lot of time for a wee man. You know, I loved him. Done really well for us at Morton, and then we brought in Liam Grimshaw, and unfortunately Carlo then kind of fell out of the start 11, but contributed every single day. His training standards were through the roof. A top professional, and like I say, when he spoke to me regarding wanting to go part time, I was never going to stand in his way. But yeah, Carlo's one of the good guys in football. I've got a lot of time for him.
Aye, brilliant boy. Annan 2, Celtic Hearts 1. You're a bit surprised about that result, but as I say, it's probably the same as the Championship. Teams can beat everybody, and I think Celtic Hearts, I think since Charlie Mulgrew came in, I think he's maybe only won once, but he's been maybe up against it just in terms of results. But see that as a manager, see if you, usually when a manager loses their job, it's because the team's not performing well, but he's kind of into a team where we're doing pretty well under Michael Tidsler. But is that just as hard because you want to put your own stamp on it, but you don't want to change too much?
Yeah, listen, it can be. You know, obviously Charlie's got big shoes to fill going to take over from Michael, who's done a really good job at Celtic. And like I say, maybe again a new manager going in changing different ideas, maybe changing the shape of the team. It might not suit the team and the players that were doing well for Michael. So there's a lot of variables. It may be the case of why they're not winning games and why they've not kicked on under Charlie. Sorry. But again, it's a fantastic result for Willie Gibson. You know, he's firefighting in that division against a lot of teams that have got a bigger budget than him, and I think he's done a great job. And he'll be over the moon with that victory yesterday.
I agree with you. I think it's a great result for Annan, and a team there probably doing theirs. You say about budgets, maybe not the best budget in the league, but I still get good players in there and good manager as well.
He's done great. You know, he had big shoes to fill. Taking over from Peter Murphy, you know, someone who'd been at Annan for 6 years and had promotions and relegations and promotion again. So I think Willie and Stephen have done a great job at Annan. And like I say, it's good to see another young manager doing well in the League of Annan.
Of course. Arbroath won, Cove Rangers 0. Arbroath are also flying. Probably didn't have the greatest of starts of the season earlier on. I remember going there with Dumbarton, I think beating 3-2 it was. And they were kind of struggling a bit. They were kind of doing maybe 8th or 9th at that point, struggling a wee bit, but they've really turned it round. Top of the league. I think they're 8 points ahead of Cove in second. Looks to be theirs. It's in their hands to kind of go there and win the league now.
Yeah, it's a massive win for Goldie and Hammy yesterday against Cove. You know, I think if Cove had won it, it makes an exciting finish to the season. But like I say, I think that win yesterday, they just need to see out now. You know, again, Goldie getting in there, young manager, him and Hammy, caretakers, they've done a terrific job. You know, like you said, they were really struggling. Dickie Pink obviously left the early part of the season, and they gave the job to Jim McIntyre left the early part of the season, and Goldie and Hammy went in and done a great job, and they've galvanised them. You know, they've just got back to basics, made it enjoyable for the players, made training enjoyable, and when you've got a good environment, then you see the results, and I think that's what Arbroath have got. You know, they've got two guys that know the club inside out, and they've got to just reward them. If they come straight back up, then it's a wonderful achievement for that club as well.
It's always been a hard place to go for Arbroath for a lot of teams, isn't it? Kind of just up there. Sometimes conditions aren't great. You know what it's like when it's a really windy day when water's coming over that stand and stuff. So I know it's the same for both teams, but Arbroath seem to relish that at times, don't they?
Well, to be fair, Jordan, I've been there, I think, 3 times as a manager with Morton, and it's been unbelievable weather. And everybody keeps saying this place is mental half the time, the wind and that. And like I say, I've never been to Arbroath and it's been a bad night. So I think this bad weather's just a myth for people. But
do you think so? Well, I've got a video
well, to be fair, I've seen YouTube videos of when Derek Gatson was in goals and tried to take by kicks, the ball's not even going by the 18-yard line and nearly getting in his goal. So, yeah, but like I say, any time I've went there with Morton, it's always been fantastic weather. So long may that continue if they get back up for next season.
See, you're on about bad weather. I was at Broomhill v Trinent yesterday on Trinent, and the weather was honking. You know what I mean? The wind, as you say, like goal kicks are coming up the park, and it's just going out the park and coming back to goalkeepers. But striker for Broomhill, Cal McKenzie, takes the penalties, but the last 2 penalties, he's like dinked them. You know what I mean? Like down the middle, and he's done it. And if he does that today, the ball's going to end up back at the halfway line. There's no chance, but he put his foot through, to be fair to him. But I don't know if that was due to the weather or just maybe he didn't have a chance at it or anything. But aye, going for that. Looking at Queen of the South 4, Inverness 1. That's a great result for Queen of the South.
It's a great result for Peter and Queen of the South, like you say. That's again a full-time club in that division who have hardly been in the top 4 all season. Would be a failure, in my opinion. But again, like I say, they're coming to the business end of the season and they've got themselves in there with a wonderful 4-1 victory yesterday. So I would imagine Peter will be looking to try and stay there now and get into the playoffs. Because, like I say, they're only one, I think, 2 full-time clubs in the division.
Yeah, and then obviously Inverness, thought they've done brilliant. Obviously administration and that kind of the deduction of points, but I think they've done really good. I remember also they've came to Dumbarton and when they went into administration, Dumbarton beat them 3-0 and then they've come back and I think they won. I think it was maybe 1-0. But I think they seem to have a good core of players, and I think for them they just had to roll the sleeves up and get in about it and try and get the points. And they've done that, sitting 8th. Same points as Annan, right enough. Obviously that result yesterday, obviously didn't go their way, but still got enough in the tank, I think, to really stay in that division and be comfortable in it.
No, listen, I think obviously Duncan went early part of the season, and they gave the job to Kel, who I know really well. It's one of my former clubs.
Yep.
They've done a remarkable job. It could have been easy just to feel sorry for themselves, but they've obviously got together, and then Kel's galvanised the group. And you can see that, some of the results have been magnificent. And I thought maybe going back maybe a month that they could maybe try and sneak into the playoffs because it was well within their reach. I think they could still do it, but they would probably need to win every game and hope the teams above them lose games and then lose points. But the job that they've done, they'll just be looking to solidify themselves. The news came out over the last few days that the old chairman from Orion Group's looking to take over him. He's made an ultimatum to the administrators that he wants to take the club forward. So I think if that goes through, then it can only be beneficial for Inverness going forward. So I think things are starting to look a little bit rosier up there than it was the last few months anyway.
Definitely, as I say, massive club. I know it wasn't only a couple of years ago they won semi-finals and cup finals, and doing well in the championship, doing well in the SPL as well when they're up there, and it's just kind of deteriorated for them. So as you say there, hopefully they can get over the line and really kick on and be back to where they were only a few years ago.
100%. They're a big club in the Highlands. Obviously Ross County are flying the flag for the Highlands at the moment, but Inverness are a wonderful club. I was there for 2 great years. I really enjoyed my time there. I always look out for the results because there's still people there today that were there when I was away there in 2010. So, like I say, they're a family club. They want to look after each other. And I think if, like I say, the takeover can get through, then I think it can only be one way up, and that's looking good for Inverness. Sorry, looking up the way rather than down the way. Aye,
definitely. I think that's probably the way to go. Montrose beating Stenhousemuir 3-2. Steny been at home. I think Steny have been flying this year as well, to be honest. Also, they won the league last year and they had that bit of rivalry with Dumbarton, but I think they've been absolutely brilliant this season. Probably a disappointing result for them.
Yeah, I think so. I think for Gary, he'll be gutted. So the squad, they're flying high at top end, on top of the table, second. And again, just at that critical part of the season, of kind of faltered a wee bit and allowed Arbroath to sneak away. But listen, for a club of Stenhousemuir's size, they'll be delighted with where they are this season. They've done terrifically well. Gary's built a really good, strong squad for that division. But listen, take nothing away from Stuart Petrie and Montrose. they're a really, really good team as well. I watched them in the Scottish Cup at Queen's Park, and they were really unlucky to go out that day. They were 2-1 up with seconds to go. They make the wrong decision, and 20 seconds later, Queen's Park get an equaliser right on the final whistle to draw 2 each, and then obviously want to win in extra time. But again, good manager in Stuart, and he's got his team playing well, and that's a massive victory for them yesterday as well.
Seeing that it's that case of Stenhousemuir also getting promoted and then having that good season, also still in the playoff positions. I think they're 8 points, 7 points ahead of Queen of South in fourth, so staying in third. But yet again, is it just about coming to that end of the season, just trying to get results and stay in that playoff place and then have a good crack at it at the playoffs?
Yeah, I think so. I think for many teams, I think, my opinion, I think Arbroath will be home and dry now. So I think for our three, it'll be a case of let's just stay in here, pick up as many points as we can to make sure we're there, and then it'll be a case of just getting ready for the playoffs and giving it your best shot. Obviously, it's easier for the team in second because, or certainly in the Championship, it's easier for the team in finish second because they get an extra 2-game rest. Whereas I think League One is different because they play the team coming down in a leg, so it's kind of fairer in League One and League Two rather than the Championship, because, only my opinion, I think the Championship playoffs all good for the Premier League team to stay up.
I know, I get what you're saying. See, getting into the playoffs, would you rather have, like, obviously, I suppose it's different, like Lowland League type thing, like I think East Kilbride did like maybe a 4 or 5 week wait, but would you rather just get right into it and get the games, I'm not saying over and done with, but rather get straight into it, fresh for games, or would you rather have like maybe a week or two to kind of prepare for it?
Well, I think it's better if the games go right in as long as you've got momentum, because if you're flying, you take it. I think the Championship, so you play the first 2 teams play 3 days or 4 days after the season's done, so they're going straight in momentum. They then play the second place team 2 or 3 days after in the semi-final, and then because the Premier League's still playing, there's a 2-week gap.
Aye.
So that team has to then go and try and either find a friendly, which is very difficult because everybody else has done it away for the summer, and the Premier League are still playing, so they're getting momentum. So again, I don't think the setup, but just my opinion, is fair for the Championship team try to get up to the Premier League, because they play that many games in a short space of time. Then they've kind of got a 10 to 12, 14 day break where they don't play because you're waiting on the Premier League team finishing the season, and then that game takes place and they're still playing, so they've got all the momentum. The Premier League team can into the game. So I think the way the other 2 leagues do it, League One and League Two, they just play the semi-finals, then the final, and then that's it done. I think it's a fairer way. But again, that's just my opinion. Other people have different views.
Just being on the subject of like the leagues and stuff, would you be happy with a SPL, maybe like 16 or 18 teams, and then Championship, like more teams in the league? Would you be open to that?
Yeah, I think it would be better for the Scottish football and the product. Like I say, I think this season we played there 5 times. I think it was last season we played Waythrow over 6 times. So I think, obviously, I know there's been talks over the years about making it bigger. I think it would be great for Scottish football if the leagues were made that a little bit bigger, whether that's 14, 16, 18. I know obviously the stumbling block would be the 4 Old Firm games a season for TV revenue, etc. But I'm sure there'd be a way to make that happen. And then it's just a case of whether there's a split, and then whatever it is, if it's 14, if it's 7 and 7, if it's 16, is it 8 and 8? If it's 18, is it 9 and 9? And then you fit in games around that. And then do you have, if it's a bigger league, do you have, instead of 1 going down, is it 2? And then you have a playoff, just to make the spectacle a little bit better. And then you may get a lot of younger players coming through because there's not as much pressure on teams not to play them because they need to win games where they can maybe stay in the leagues, etc. And then bigger teams can maybe filter in more kids because there's not as much strain or pressure at the top to stay in leagues and finish top 6, etc., if you get where I'm coming from.
That's a fair point, to be fair, because especially at this time of the season, teams like maybe, I don't know, like a mid-table, they can neither really go up or down. Maybe we'll put younger boys on to give them a chance, and then maybe young boys are spotted like kind of better. Is that what you were kind of coming from?
100%. You take it, there's only 12 teams in the Premier League, so top 6, bottom 6. teams are fighting to get into that top 6. Likelihood is if they're not going to be putting kids on it to go and try and win them a game to get them top 6, especially now. Whereas if you've maybe got an 18-team league and there only is, like I say, top 9, bottom 9, or bottom 8, top 8, there may be a little bit more scope to play kids, because the likelihood is it doesn't matter what end you're in, you're still going to be all right. Whereas the prize money at the moment is more. You're getting top fivers at the moment guaranteed European football because of how well Celtic and Rangers are doing in Europe. So teams are fighting to try and get there, which gets them another £5-6 million, whatever it is. So everybody's got all that to think about. But like I say, hopefully in the next, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, that there's maybe scope to get back to the drawing board and see if there can be league reconstruction again to make it a bigger league and a more competitive league, because there's certainly teams in the Championship who could certainly go in there. Morton could go there, Dunfermline, Partick Thistle, Falkirk potentially coming back up, Livingston have been there. So there's massive clubs that are sitting in the Championship who would certainly add value to the Premier League, in my opinion.
No, I definitely agree with you. Just going on to League 2, run through the results. Bonnyrigg 0, Elgin City 1. Obviously, Bonnyrigg fighting down the bottom end of the league. Obviously, they're bottom now. Elgin City, they've been a bit, I think they've done well this year, to be fair. They're also sitting 4th in the League 2. Maybe a bit hot and cold at times, but I suppose that's part and parcel of football. I think they've really turned a corner as well since the new manager coming in. Last year, I thought they didn't really do as well, and then this year they've really turned a corner. But obviously, Elgin's still going for the playoff, and say Bonnyrigg down the bottom. See when Bonnyrigg down the bottom, yet again, I've said it before, just about obviously getting results, are 3 points behind Forfar, who have really turned a corner the last few weeks. It looked like only maybe a month or two ago, Forfar were down and out, and they've really picked up a bit of form and managed to scrape results.
Yeah, like I say, obviously Alan and Stefan have been into Elgin, been really galvanised them. If you look at their results, I think they've won their last 3 in the bounce, but previous to that, I think they lost the last 7 in the bounce. So they'll be delighted to have turned the corner, because what we've spoke about a lot through this programme is people lose their jobs. Maybe the owners at Elgin have maybe seen them up there all year and thought, we don't want to lose that. We've got an opportunity here to maybe go up to League 1. We're going to fall out of the playoffs at the last hurdle. But again, credit to Alan and Stefan. They've galvanised the squad, but they've had a lot of injury problems as well. They've been at times only had 2 or 3 players in the bench because their best players have been injured or suspended. And again, a small club like Elgin, maybe not got all the finances that other clubs maybe have, that they can maybe have a bigger squad. So again, credit to them. And again, for Johnny, who just came in, it's obviously a difficult job for him. At Bonnyrigg, they've had their problems this season with their pitch, etc. Had a 6-point deduction, which I thought was a bit unfair, because some of the pitches that we're playing on are a disgrace at the moment, and they've been unjustly deducted 6 points because of undulations in their pitch. Which, like I say, if that's the case, how do we go about helping these clubs to make it a same playing field for everyone? Because they were allowed into the league with a pitch. Why all of a sudden when they come into the league they're then deducted 6 points because someone decides that their pitch isn't fit for purpose? So again, if I was anyone associated with Bonnyrigg, I would have been disappointed to have been deducted 6 points. But again, that's only my opinion. There may be other factors that we don't know about, but like I say, for you to get deducted 6 points for your pitch, I think it's a bit harsh.
I agree, especially made a great point. You come into the league with it, and then as soon as you're in the league, you get deducted. And I think there was a thing that the 2 seasons to get it sorted. And obviously, it's easier said than done when you're a club. Obviously, it's not exactly you can just go out and buy a park and It also costs money, which maybe a lot of teams probably in League 1 and League 2 don't have a lot of money to go and spend. And you talk about pitches, obviously close to me, Dumbarton. Their pitch has been a riot. all season, to be honest. Know what I mean? It's a disgrace, and I think you can only do so much in if you're Bonnie-Rig, to be honest with you. But as I say, probably harsh. I do agree with you. East Fife 4, Spartans 2. Spartans were 2-0 up at half time, but obviously what a result to come back and win 4-2. Probably East Fife as well. Maybe been up against it the last couple of weeks, but also get a great manager in Dick Campbell as well.
Yeah, he's one of the best. I've got a lot of time for Dick and Pink. You know, they're two unbelievable characters. Been very good for me, a young manager. You know, anytime I want to ask questions, they always answer the phone. So again, I'd just like to thank them for their time with me. But a great result for him. You know, he'd be 2-0 down. Again, he come back, win 4-2, put them right back in the top end of the table. And obviously Spartans will be disappointed, you know, because they were so close to Elgin winning and then losing again. That's another 3 points. Elgin are closer to that top 4. So again, for both teams, it's a bit disappointing. But certainly for Dick and Pink, it's a massive result for them being 2-0 down to come back and win 4-2.
Great result for them, and Spartans as well. I thought last season when Dumbarton were up against them, Spartans were absolutely excellent, to be honest with you. I thought they were probably the best team in the league, I thought, in my opinion. And this season it's maybe they've just been their way, just maybe been up against it a wee bit, but they'll probably be disappointed with that, especially being 2-0 up at half time. But as you say, credit goes to East Fife, obviously come back winning 4-2, and it puts East Fife second in the league, a point behind Peterhead, who were playing yesterday against Forfar. Good result for Forfar, a good point for them probably. As I say, 0-0 against Peterhead. As I say, every point's valuable for both of the teams, so is probably Forfar have done East Fife a wee bit of a favour yesterday.
100%. I think Jim, since he's went to Forfar, done a remarkable job. Again, languishing at the bottom of the table, he's galvanised him. He's obviously brought in some players to help him. But to pick up a 1-1 draw with a team flying at the top end of the pitch is a great result. And they'll just be looking to build on that. You know, the Forfar will be looking to try and bounce away from the bottom of the table. And obviously Peterhead, you know, got some good players there as well. Kieran Shanks, who's another one that I've been looking at over the last couple of years. He's again kicking on. You know, he went abroad, didn't really click for him. He's went back to Peterhead. He's starting to find his feet again. So again, there's good kids out there. There's also good players. We'll also get Rory McAllister as well. I think he's still at Peterhead. If I'm wrong, correct me please. But a player I played with Inverness. You know, his record speaks for itself. A wonderful football player, and again, someone that these younger players can learn from. And the two young lads at Peterhead have done a great job as well. You know, two young boys that have been given the opportunity. Jim lost his job, and they've took it by the horns, and they're doing a terrific job as well.
No, they sure are. Obviously, he's working well. I don't know if you're a fan of the player manager or the co-manager, but the two of them have obviously, it's worked for Peterhead, and if it works for you, then, you know, good, and, you know, obviously wish them well and stuff. Stirling 2, Edinburgh City 1. I think Edinburgh City will be a bit disappointed about that. They've really turned a corner, been flying, some good players, sitting third in the league, playoff position, but I think they'll be a wee bit disappointed. But good result for Stirling. Probably, you know, Stirling kind of needed that one, puts them in a good position, 4 points ahead of Stranraer.
Yeah, it's a great result for Alan. You know, he went in there, I think about October time.
Yep.
He's done really well. He's again brought in some good players. You know, brought in Derek Gadsden from abroad for a really good goalkeeper who's certainly helped him. You know, with young Jack Hartness, who we got on loan from Rangers, who's been a real good player from up down that right hand side. You know, Jack's got bags of energy, a real good engine, and in that league, in that level, he'll be an asset for Stirling. But certainly Michael will be disappointed. You know, I've watched Edinburgh City a couple of times this season. I watched him at Clyde. One night I was there to watch Connor Young, who decided to go abroad to Dunfermline. So, but he's got a good group. You know, there's some good players in that team. And like I said, they'll be disappointed as a game because they like to kick on as well. So, but again, at this time of the season, Jordan, it's very nervous for a lot of teams because they know what's at stake and they don't want to be that team that make an error to cost our team 3 points or 1 point or inevitably 0 points. So yeah, it's getting to the business end of the season, and there's a lot to play for. So you can see a lot of variables and results, I'm sure, for the next 5 or 6 weeks.
It's also getting the business end of the season. It's going to be interesting for a lot of teams through the leagues. Last results: Stranraer 1, Clyde 2. Also, I think there's a bit of a delay to that game as well, with water and stuff on the park. Does that go against you? I know it happens to both teams, but has that ever happened to you? Also, delayed to games? Is it just one of them things you just need to go on with and stay focused?
Yeah, you just got to, like I say, I've had it many times, many years at Hamilton with the AstroTurf pitch, games getting called off last minute. I remember this game fondly against Kilmarnock. The game should have went ahead, but the referee turned up. The pitch was covered in snow, so everybody's mucking in to get the snow off the pitch. The pitch was playable, and at the last minute, the referees deemed the game unplayable because of ice. Right. Again, as a player, you just got to be focused. I've had other games where I remember a game at Inverness where we had snow, we had hailstones, we had rain, and then we had glorious sunshine all in the space of 20 minutes. But as a player, you just got to be focused. You can't let it affect you too much. But getting to the game, it'll be a great result for Clyde. They were struggling at the bottom. Darren's come in, took over for Ian McCall, and he's managed to get a little bit of tune out of them. Obviously, there's been games where he's been disappointed, lost poor goals, but like I say, the goal I seen or witnessed in the highlights for the lad Rennie was a goal of winning any game. An unbelievable free kick he scored to win the game for Clyde yesterday. So yeah, like I say, there's some great talent in the leagues, and it's just about trying to find the right ones. But certainly, the free kick I saw was Ronaldo-esque yesterday.
Right, brilliant. Well, Dougie, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I've got one wee question just before you go, if that's all right. Who's the best player you've played with and the best player you've played against?
Best player I played with, probably Tony Andre at Hamilton. He was unbelievable. We had a great group of players. And Tony, don't get me wrong, Tony was probably helped with the players that were round about him, but he scored something like 23 goals that season I played with him, and got his move to Norwich where Alec took him when he left Hamilton. But listen, there's been many a good players. Tony's, like I say, just his ability and the amount of winning goals he scored that season for us was remarkable, and an all-round good guy as well. And probably the best player I played against, I would have to say Virgil van Dijk, an absolute Rolls Royce, a centre back at Celtic. Like I say, half the time in Scotland, and no disrespect to anyone, he was playing in second gear half the time. It was too easy for him. And like I say, he was a good professional and an unbelievable player, and he deserves everything out of the game because he had the mentality to do that. But again, when you're playing at these clubs, Celtic, Liverpool, Southampton, you have to be at the top of your game. And like I say, he's doing that now at Liverpool as a captain and thriving every week in the Premier League.
Brilliant. Dougie, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thanks for coming on, mate. Also rooting for you for Morton. Hopefully you can get that playoff place. And as I say, rooting for you, and best of luck, we'll say, this season and next season, and also the rest of your career and stuff.
No, thanks, Jordan. Thanks very much for having me on, and thanks for your time.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Cheers.